and greetings to everyone who's joined this meetup session. I know it's a bit different from usual meetup formats where I'm just going to be the only one talking, and hopefully we can get this to be more interactive towards the end of this presentation. So for my topic for today, well, as you can see in my slides, it's a bit of a mouthful, but it's detecting attackers operating in cloud environments using elastic security. Just a little bit of background of myself. I'm a developer. I've been in the IT space for like roughly 15, 16 years. I started as a software engineer, worked with a few programming languages, but then I got to board in just writing code, so I kind of got into operations, more of like a mix of DevOps and also still working with applications. But when the cloud era kind of like kicked in, that's where my DevOps interest came about. So also work in different like industries like insurance, medical, and in manufacturing. So all sorts of different kind of business applications I've been involved in and sort of like implemented well, a couple of like large scales, but mostly like for small and medium businesses. And then I've joined Skillfield like a year ago. Being them as they're more of like expertise is on cybersecurity. I guess it's also like a good exposure for me to to work on systems that is focused on that aspect. So if let's say if you're developing an application right now, it's very critical for you to also consider the security aspects of it. And yeah, and with my experience in companies so far, I mean, they've been providing opportunities for us to widen that security knowledge and yeah, so this is basically where I'm at right now in terms of my career. Okay, so I've mentioned that Skillfield is a cybersecurity consultancy company. It also has some offerings for for solutions that involves big data analytics. If you if you want to know more, you can just visit the website. But since our talk is more focused on security, then yeah, this is something that I want to highlight that that the company is actually doing. Also, since we will be using Elasticsearch as part of the solution, I just also want to say that Skillfield is a premier partner of Elastic. So in our solutions, we have Elastic embedded into those things, and yeah, and we have certified engineers in the company that can help you through your Elastic needs. Okay, so on to the agenda. I've divided the talk into three. I only have a few slides before, and then later on we'll go into like a demo. But I divided it into three just to walk through some of the context in the title that I just mentioned in the first slide. So first, we will just be defining what an attacker is in the cybersecurity context. Then some basic understanding on what security it is when you talk about cloud. And lastly, how we can simulate an attack and detect it, and how your security analyst or security operations team can sort of like analyze it and take action. So, right. Okay, so security by definition is a state of being free from danger or threat. We do have a lot of different types of security, like physical security, emotional security, or financial security. But for this talk, what we're actually going to be talking about is cybersecurity. And so cybersecurity is the state of being protected against the criminal or unauthorized use of electronic data or measures taken to achieve this. So again, I guess if you're talking about security, you just need to know what are you protecting and what kind of assets that you have that needs to be controlled, or that needs to have those security controls so that it's well protected. So for cybersecurity, it's electronic data. So right. So also in cybersecurity, there's this concept of there's this something called the Triad or the CIA Triad. this is actually a guiding principle for making sure that something that your assets are actually secure. So just to quickly run through on these three concepts. So you have first confidentiality. It means that you just need to make sure that all the people that you've identified that can access the asset are only the people that can access. So it needs to be confined in that space. Integrity, it means that if the version of this document contains only 5 lines or 5 sentences, then it has to be intact. No one should be able to modify it, or whenever you distribute that information, it has to be the same as what it should be. So yeah, no alteration or whatsoever. And then lastly, the availability. So you just need to make sure that information is always readily available. It shouldn't be preventing those people that you've identified to have access to to not access them, and in turn, like it should always provide that sense of safety for those people who have access. So that's why all these three concepts, once it's there, it means you're ensured that your assets are protected. Okay, so now that we know that we are talking about cybersecurity here, an attacker in a cybersecurity context is a person or a process that attempts to access these electronic data or functions or any areas within your environment without any sort of authorization. So I talked about confidentiality. That already reaches that gap. So if you have someone trying to access it, which is not part of your list, then that is already a potential threat, and yeah, that's already considered something, an activity that it's unusual for your environment. And yes, also again, the people like them are doing this because they have some malicious intent, or they have a goal for to compromise your assets and use them for their own benefit, like for money or for ransom or whatsoever. So yeah, different types of cyber attackers. You can call them cyber criminals, hacktivists, state-sponsored attackers, insider threats. Yeah, you name it. So there's a lot of jargons going around that sort of identifies these people, and yeah, they all fall in the same category, that they just want your data to be used into some malicious intent. Okay, so in terms of the attacker asset to attacker relationship, or your data to attacker relationship, there's a few bits that I just want to show you. So basically, an asset have vulnerabilities that can potentially harm them, right? So say you have an attacker that creates these threats, and so these threats will basically exploit these vulnerabilities. So the more vulnerable your assets are, then the more it increases the risk for the company or to you of getting exposed, of getting hacked, of getting your data be used in such a way that that it will put you into a bad situation. So that's why we need to create security controls that will protect your assets, right? That will eliminate these vulnerabilities, and also eventually will reduce the risk of exposure. So yeah, so this is the basic relationship in how an attacker it is to your data or to your asset, and also to entirety of managing the risk. It's all about managing the risk anyway, first in terms of security, of managing the risk for your company or for yourself. Okay, so that's the attacker that we're talking about, which is a cyber criminal. So now talking about the environment that has all these things right now. So we're talking about electronic data as an asset, or the main asset that we're trying to protect in terms of the cybersecurity space. And what else would where else would be these electronic data will be stored into right now, especially in the modern days, where now we have different types of devices that you can use and store data from. So this is So basically, it's the cloud, and cloud computing has evolved immensely towards a couple of decades already, where more and more providers are coming in. Competition is getting strong, and a lot of innovation is happening because cloud computing has been provided this sort of like convenience for everyone to eliminate that sort of physical constraint of like creating an ID department locally in your space and just putting it into the cloud. So it's more of like this convenience and yeah, there's a lot of other improvements as well in terms of network, but not to focus on that, but more to go back on just that idea that the cloud itself is very rich in electronic data, and if attackers sees this, as something where, it's, of course, obviously, if you have a lot of electronic data that's in this space, then there's also a lot of potential threats that can be created, and attackers will be, will be enjoying to inject their plans and their intents in this space because, there's a lot of things that they can infiltrate. So yeah, so if you look at it into more like an objective environment, then cloud just basically refers to servers, that are accessed over the internet, and the software and the databases that run on those servers. So basically here, what I'm just saying is, although cloud is not literally like your data is in thin air, it's also like you're just using another person's computer. But to you, right, those like virtual machines that you spin up, or all those resources that you create in that environment is your asset. But also in the cloud, there's this concept of shared responsibility where the more you abstract yourself, or the more you move away from the infrastructure, right, the lesser the responsibility that you have. But I'm not saying that when I say less responsibility, it means it's very little. To me, even though if you're only managing the data, it's still pretty big. I mean, in terms of security, when we talk about security, the data itself, protecting your data itself is already like a very hard job. So like in this diagram, again, like if you talk about cloud, we have certain service models or service offerings that is there. There's the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and has you like go up or go far away from the hardware, or rather the infrastructure, then the less and less responsibility you get as to more for the cloud provider to ensure that these things are fully managed for you. So another interesting thing about this diagram is that regardless of the service model that you're choosing, you're still responsible for your own data, and you can't blame the cloud provider for not doing their job, for protecting your data, because it's still up to you to protect them, right? So yeah, it's still your responsibility to make sure that your data is secure in the cloud. So again, I mentioned this before, that anything that you store in the cloud is your asset. Any cloud resource, any information that is that environment will be in your care, depending on what type of information that you store, and it's being it as an asset. It's is exposed to any form of cyber threat or any form of malicious intent from the cyber criminals. Okay. So here is a photo of a security operations center of Visa. So now there's this trend of like more and more companies now are creating their own, embedding their own security operations center, because but what is very critical at this point in time, where cloud, the cloud is already has evolved so much, and technology has improved so much. Companies now are struggling to find ways to efficiently protect their data. basically. So usually before, like back in the old days, you would look at this room as like the IT room where you have the mix of your IT engineers, your network engineers, your application support people. But now, as more and more data is being processed in the company, as more and more data is needed for the company to be more successful, then the more threats or the more risks it's putting the company to out there, especially if you're using cloud technology. So it only makes sense to consider security as a priority because yeah, anyone can just try and snoop in and steal your data. So the reason why I want to show this photo is that security operations is not very, I'd say it's not very straightforward. It's not easy. There's a lot of things that you need to do to be able to identify a threat. Like, well, of course, if you're just trying to protect one machine at home, like your personal desktop, it's fine. You can just look at it 24/7 and see if there's someone trying to snoop in your network. But if you're looking to like 100,000 or probably 200,000 machines scattered all across the globe, and each machine is getting traffic like every single second, it's very hard for you to track that activity that is malicious. And that's why you have a security operations team. And not only that, you need the people, you also need to equip yourself with tools that enables these people to act and to effectively collaborate and analyze things, so that so it's a more systematic way of potentially protecting your company and reducing those risks. So that's why I'm introducing to you this solution. One of the solutions that we wanted to say that can be effective is using Elastic. So Elastic is actually a search company that had evolved over time. So they're actually now in hyper growth mode, where they've introduced a lot of other technologies or internal solutions and offering it to their customers. And then it's also open source. It started also as an open source platform where everyone can contribute and then share their ideas. And initially, or I think a couple of years back, if I'm not wrong, like we only consider it as the ELK stack, which is the Elasticsearch Kibana, log/Kibana stack. But as you can see now, they've added other parts like the beats, the endpoint, and then now with the security feature, anyone that has a use case, for starting up their own security operations team, or simply just wants to protect their business from threats and efficiently manage them, then Elastic also provides a way to do this. And it just makes sense because the strength of Elastic is being them as a search company. They have the capability to process like billions of data in a more efficient way. Like they have all these algorithms that is running on those like data that you store, that that can put in more analytics in place, and with other features that allows you to visualize them easily, to more integration points that allows you to embed into your systems and send it through their platform. And then on top of that, there's a layer for you to analyze all those logs if there's some patterns in there that shows that there's a potential threat. It's a one-stop shop for everything, and which is why, so this is a great solution going forward. Okay, so the goal of any tool, or the goal of any solution that aims to secure environment would be the following. Like, you need to eliminate the blind spots, right? So by monitoring all of your environment, you need to see you need to have full visibility. You need to stop threats at scale. Like, you don't need to be going to every individual hardware or component just to make sure that it's secure. You need to be able to manage it centrally or in a place where you can have access to everything, regardless of the location. And then lastly, you need to be able to arm your people. You need to be it needs to be able to allow your team or security team or even yourself to perform all these analysis and activities just to reduce your risk or eliminate those threats moving forward. Well, I've come up with this one. This is not something that I've got from an official documentation, but it actually just takes common sense to understand how a person in the security center or security operations center will be able to like investigate or take action on a certain event. And obviously the first step would be we need a way to collect activities. You need to collect those informations on your environment, what's happening in there. And then once you have all this information, you have to analyze it or parse it in some way that you understand, because every environment is different. Every operating system is different. They can spit out any type of log, any form of information, which sometimes it's very hard to understand, or it's very hard to consolidate. So you just need to come up with like a sort of like a common schema where you can ingest all those different types of logs and put it into a place where it's common for you. It's easy for you to read. And then you have a way to store it. So once you have all these logs or all these information available for you, you need to also find a way to detect it efficiently. Then what I meant by efficiently is like you don't have to like always like do your full text search on all those logs and get all those tech words that you think might be related to a threat, right? So you need to have an engine that runs that can sniff all these information and explain it for you. Oh, okay, so this virtual machine is being attacked, or this resource was deleted unauthorized. And yes, now that you have a way to do that, it's not always that that these things can just run by itself and then notify you. So you also have to put in place some integrations where you can embed it into your messaging system, that you can get instant messaging, or you can get notified that the detection is it is actually fired up, or something is up. So now that you know that something's wrong, you have to gather your team, and discuss among yourself, like, how to actually resolve this issue, or if this is actually just a false positive, or it's something that needs to change downstream, like, we have to just, limit the access for that person, or something needs to be installed in the environment. And so you have to track all these things, like in historically, like you have to have a timeline, you have to have like some playbooks in place to see how you can effectively resolve future threats. So yeah, so this is the workflow that we have, and Elasticsearch actually provides these capabilities. So yeah, so let me go straight to the demo. By the way, feel free to drop your questions in the chat, and then later on in the session, we can just go through them and then see if I can answer those in the session too. Okay, so for my demo, what I'm going to be showing is actually just to simulate one of the pre-built rules that we have in Elasticsearch. So sorry, I forgot to mention about the reason why we are also highlighting Elasticsearch as one of the good solutions for cloud protection is that Elasticsearch provides pre-built rules, pre-built cloud rules that will enable you to protect your environment-specific resources. Like, for example, in Azure, you have there like key vaults, you have service principal, you have event hubs. So that is more specific to Azure, and now Elasticsearch is providing you a way to sort of like detect potential threats that may link to those kind of resources. So for just for the purpose of the demo, what I'll be doing is I'll be showing you how to detect an unauthorized deletion of a resource. So I picked Event Hub as one of the resources because we already have a pre-built detection in Elasticsearch that that allows you to monitor that. So since later on I'll explain to you why I'm doing this now before I'm showing you the backend. But the reason why I had to show you this first is because it takes time for the backend to do its detection, and there's actually a schedule for every sort of like job that you turn on in the backend. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete this event hub. So probably I have 3 event hubs prepared already for deletion. So I'm going to just delete it here. Okay, let me that other one. So yeah, so anyway, it's the same activity that's being logged, whether it is a manual or a CLI deletion approach that you did. And so what I just did is I deleted the event hubs, and then in this environment, you can actually export the activity logs to Elastic, or there's a way for you to get all this information that is happening in your environment, and just export it into a place where you can save all of that. And that environment that we're looking at is actually Elastic. So this is the activity log. So basically what it is doing now is all this information that's being stored here is just forwarded to that blob storage. So I created a subscription for Elastic Cloud. Everyone in the call, if you have not used it yet, you can just Google Elastic Cloud, and then you will be given 14 days free trial to basically try out everything. And that includes the Elastic security as well. So if you want to do like your own evaluation of the tool, you can do so. So this, what you're seeing right now is the Elastic tool. So I'm going into the Kibana because it's easier because it's user friendly, and especially if you're just new to the tool, it will be easy for you to evaluate some of the features. So here I mentioned about the Elastic stack, where you have the Kibana, you have you have Logstash, you have the beats, you have the then of course the Elastic security as well. So all of those things can be easily managed into just one UI, which is the Kibana UI. So now that we were talking about security, right? So I mentioned about rules, prebuilt rules that Elastic Security is providing for you to be able to detect anomalies in your cloud environment. So if I just quickly go in tags and I filter it to Azure, and here you will see the pre-built rules that is available for Azure. So you see if an Azure application credential is modified, Azure key vault is modified, deletion, addition, all sorts of other rules that you feel is necessary for your company or for your organization to monitor. And these are not just like made up rules. If you, like, say for example, let's go to the actual rule that we're trying to demo for. There's a framework, the MITRE ATT&CK framework, that is used to come up with these rules, and then it will also give you some guidelines. If you go in and inspect, what the rule is all about, it will provide you some information on some reference URL on what an event hub is, or the features, and then also the MITRE ATT&CK equivalent or the guidelines that is aligned to that rule. You can also look at that. Like, for example, this one is under defense evasion, impair defenses, or disable and modify tools. So you can even read further what this technique is talking about, and then what are the procedures and triaging process that you can enable or that you can implement in your security operations team, and use it as a so-called a way for you to develop your playbooks. And if you want to standardize that process of addressing these kind of threats, then that'd be a way to do so. Another thing that I also want to mention is that the rules are actually acting on the data that are being stored. And if you recall, the very first step in that process is collect. And the way we are able to send these logs to Elastic is using beats, using file beats. So beats are lightweight data shippers. So you install it you run it in an agent. You run it in an environment or a VM or any machine that you want. Then what it will do is based on the policies, the agent policies that you've specified, the connection strings that you've defined, it will move those pieces. So let me go to that one. So if you go into the main bar under management fleet, so here you'll see all the agents that are running. And for that Azure environment use case, I created an agent to collect those logs, those activity logs. And the way I've enabled that is by installing something called an integration. Okay, so if you go and click on this one, okay, so we have two integrations for this agent. So we have the Azure activity log integration, and then the system monitoring integration. So if you go into this one, if you go and edit this integration, you will see the information on where the activity logs needs to be captured. So you have the name of the event hub. You have the name, you have the connection string for that event hub, and then you also need to have a storage account, because the way activity logs work is that it actually storing these logs into a container, and then what the agent is doing is just reading that container and pushing it to Elastic. So if you go and look back into, I think I forgot to mention this one. If you want to go to this event hub that I'm just talking about, this activity log event hub. So what it is doing is this is acting as a bridge from the Azure environment to Elastic. So all the events that are coming in based on the activities that that is being done in the Azure environment will be processed by the event hub, and then it will be sent to the blob storage that the Elastic agent is using to store. So you can see here, like even there's a diagram where messages are being sent in the event hub itself, and you'll see that some of those messages coming through it indicates that there's some activity that needs to be tracked. So also with regards to the blob storage that I just mentioned, okay, storage. So the moment you set up your integration to this storage account, it will pre-create these containers for you. So you see through this file beat activity logs, audit logs, platform logs, then event activity logs. So all the files that are being dumped here will be sent to Elastic for analysis. And yeah, and once you have that integration set up. So again, the purpose of the integration is just for you to set up these connection strings. Otherwise, the two environments won't be able to see each other. And being that it's very specific to the actual cloud provider, it gives you more granularity in terms of what resources you can link it to. So, like, for example, here, if you want to collect from an event hub, you want to collect from AD, platform logs, Azure Spring Cloud. So it depends on what the integration offers, and you're not limited to. Also, with regards to the integration, you're not limited to Azure activity logs. So if you go to under management, you have a section for integrations. There's a lot of other integration that you can do, like Apache HTTP Server, Tomcat, and since we're talking about cloud, if you filter that to cloud, you'll see AWS integrations. You can see Google Cloud Platform integrations, Azure integrations. So being that you can do this thing centrally, and you can manage all these integrations centrally into one space, it will be easy for you to consolidate all this monitoring. And although, like, yes, it's if you're small, maybe it's a bit of an overkill and makes sense to just make use one. But still, if you want to just do your own analysis or an own checking in this environment, in the cloud environment, it might be tedious, or it might require some expertise in Azure. And in the long run, if let's say if you will branch out, or you'll becoming more of like a hybrid, cloud hybrid kind of a business, then it kind of makes sense to just also just choose a tool that you can integrate across. Okay, so what else did I miss? So that's for the agent. Okay, so the file beats, I mentioned about how these beats needs to run into somewhere where it has to pull all those logs on the storage accounts that you use. So for this demo, I've spin up a virtual machine that runs the Elastic agents for this use case. So basically, what it will do is whenever you install the integration, it will give you some steps on how you need to install the Elastic agent into that machine, and then it will give you all the connection strings so that this integration that you just installed will be linked to all those inputs that you put in. So I have it running right here at the moment. So let's say if you want to just check the status of that, you'll see that there's a file beat that's running and metric beat, file monitoring, and so since we have two integrations, we have the Azure activity log and the system activity log, and that's why hence you have these four, and they're running as well. So what this entails is that something is running, some job is running in the background that is doing all these things. So you don't have to like manually trigger them every time. Okay, so that's for the integration agent. Okay, what else? Okay, so now we go to alerts. Okay, so now that we have the rules in place, we said that so these rules will actually try and inspect all the logs that are coming in, and based on the rule that is in there, it will create an alert. Okay, so since we've deleted that event of quite some time, so we should be expecting a couple of events that was just fired up. So this was like 12:36 my time, which is 3 minutes ago. So you'll basically see here down below that there were two alerts that were fired up, and then from here, this UI right now is another good feature about Elastic Security, because like I said, if you want to enable your analysts to do triaging, or you do investigation or timeline mapping or playbooks, then since you already have detected the activity in your environment, then all they need to do is to just go in here and probably open up the details for that thing, or you can add a new case. Let's say, for example, if you add a new case for this one, so unauthorized. Yeah, then you can put notes here that this person is not really allowed to delete. So yeah, yeah, you can put something like that. You can put in links to documentations that these are only the people that should be allowed, but this person is not identified. And then the more advanced part, which I guess is not covered by this meetup, is like if there's also like threat intros that you want to embed into those rules, or pre-embed into those rules, it will be appearing in this tab as well. And then you can also inspect, the actual log that was put in, where was the activity originated, what type of resource was changed. So all of these information will be provided to the analyst, and it will be easy for them to take action. So yeah, this is the next step. So once you have the detection fired up, then you will have this in this view. You can put it also in a timeline, where I guess if you want to correlate to some event, an old event that's unsafe, then you can also this Elasticsearch also provides you that capability. Okay. Yep. So I think what was it? Okay. So going back to that rules again, where where you want to be notified whenever there's alert that was created. If you go in here and edit the rule, I have so I have here a setting to send that alert to my Slack. So I created a webhook integration for my Slack. Let me just use my quick hands right here and see if I don't overshare anything. Okay. Right here. Okay. So okay, so now I got this notification at 12:37 now. So this is for the 2 event hubs that was generated just now. So yeah, that's how you can sort of like enable notifications as part of your workflow so that your analyst doesn't have to like go into the alert page and refresh every minute. So that's also one way to make it easy for you to do your investigation. And then also another thing to add is if you're using integrations, it also provides you some pre-built they call it pre-built dashboards. So if you go back to that integration that we just created, so this one, oh, sorry, not this one. Just that. Okay, this one. So these are called assets. So assets are actually dashboards, pre-created dashboards for you based on the logs that is being processed in this one. So if you go, say for example, sorry, I think I already have that. If you go to the Kibana, you'll see, sorry, go to dashboard. Yep, so this is a pre-built view called logs Azure user activity, or there's also another view for the cloud overview. So what it does is, pre-built dashboards that will provide you insights on the logs that are coming in. So these are not just the alerts that were created and not just the detections, but since we're actually tracking activity logs, so you can see access requests, activity level, the users that are active on that day. You can filter back maybe, I don't know, 30 days ago, since I'm sharing this subscription with a bunch of people also. So yeah, you can see that there are other users there as well. So yeah, you can also like use this pre-built assets to share reports to your stakeholders. And yeah, and it's already pre-built for you, so you can brag about it, say that you did a good job in creating, but yeah, it's already pre-built anyway. So cool. All right, I think that's about it for my presentation. Happy to take in questions from anyone if there are.